Imagine a race in the wet with fires, crashes, familiar radios and a fan favorite playing a huge part in this crazy race. A race with forgotten drivers, drivers who retired and drivers who are still kicking ass today. It was in a new era with new engines, with old teams who have been around forever and teams that were in Formula 1 only briefly. Ladies and gentlemen, please allow me to do a funny race review on the 2014 Hungarian Grand Prix. I'm Wimbo. Here's 3 seconds to leave a like. Start intro. 2014 was the first season in the hybrid V6 era. The era where following close was only possible for a lap or two before the car started overheating in the wake of the car in front. Mercedes had the best engine and according to Paddy Lowe, they didn't run it at full power to prevent the FIA from intervening. We just had a 4-year dominance of Red Bull, so everyone hoped the grid would be shaken up. We then had 7 years of Mercedes dominance instead. The ground effect regulations in the future might change that, right? The 2014 grid. 2014 is a long time ago and the grid looks very different today. Let me run you through the players before we get to the racing. Red Bull Racing. Sebastian Vettel and Daniel Ricciardo. Vettel was trying to get the 5th title in a row with Red Bull and Ricciardo was the next big driver for the Milton Keynes team. Mercedes. Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg. Lewis Hamilton only had 1 title from 2008 and it was his 2nd season at Mercedes. Rosberg was there a bit longer and the two were friends. But that would change quickly. Ferrari. Fernando Alonso and Kimi Räikkönen. Alonso had finished runner-up 3 times in a row and Kimi Räikkönen was just being Kimi. Lotus. Romain Grosjean and Pastor Maldonado. 2 of the safest drivers out there. Lol. McLaren. Jenson Button and Kevin Magnussen. Button didn't like K-Mag all that much. He was a little wild. Nothing changed there. Force India. Nico Hülkenberg and Sergio Perez. Both of them are still on the grid today and both of them have a long-term seat. Sauber. Adrian Sutil and Esteban Gutierrez. Well, what can I say about those two? Not much. Toro Rosso. Jean-Eric Vergne and Daniil Kvyat. Vergne was the driver with the VER name on the F1 TV graphics, but Verstappen got that later when Vergne was gone. A bit similar to what happened to Kelly, Kvyat's girlfriend. Williams. Felipe Massa and Valtteri Bottas. Williams had the benefit of the super strong Mercedes engine that season, but went downhill quickly after that. Marussia. Jules Bianchi and Max Chilton. We all knew Bianchi as he was Leclerc's goduncle and sadly passed away after a crash in Japan. I don't think anyone remembers Max Chilton. Or Marussia for that matter. Caterham. Kamui Kobayashi and Marcus Ericsson. I only know Caterham because Guido van der Garde used to race there. So that's 11 teams and 22 drivers. Looking at the quality of the bottom teams, I can see why F1 isn't keen on letting another team join. The race. Hold up, something happened during qualifying that's worth mentioning too. Lewis Hamilton was blessed with a spicy rocket engine, not only in 2021, but also in 2014. Except that this one got a little too hot and needed a cooldown period. That made Hamilton start from the back, like K-Mag, because he f***ed it into the barrier in the rain. The next day was also rainy, which is a great recipe for a great race. So at the start, Nico Rosberg started from pole position, Vettel in P2 to make it an all-German front row. Bottas in P3 with Daniel Ricciardo in P4. Alonso and Massa in P5 and P6. Button and Vergne in P7 and P8. Hülkenberg and Magnussen finished the top 10 long before they were teammates and long before the "suck my balls mate" incident, which also happened at the Hungarian Grand Prix, but 3 years later. A wet start with a lot of spray with Rosberg getting away okay. Bottas attacking Vettel and Ricciardo losing a position to Button. Hamilton from the back had a massive challenge to make it to the front. He didn't make it easier by spinning off, for no apparent reason, but he was able to continue. Ah, look at Toto Wolff's young face. And Paddy Lowe, who left Mercedes but has since returned. He looks very serious too. Then Marcus Ericsson was caught out by the wet track and crashed. He didn't blame Grosjean for it, which was decent, I think. Time for the safety car, which allowed a bunch of drivers to pit. Some chose slicks, others picked inters. I always love races with all different strategies. Then Grosjean crashed trying to warm up his tires, just like he did in Baku 2018. My previous funny race review was about that race. I'll leave it up as an end screen so you can enjoy that too. The restart went okay, with no new crashes and a lot of fights in the midfield. Lewis Hamilton started ticking off drivers in front, one by one, making his way to the podium positions. The two Force India drivers had a wobble and Hamilton went past them with ease. And through goes Hamilton! Then Hülkenberg and Perez crashed into each other, with the German not being able to continue. No podium this time, Nico. Maybe next time. Checo was the only Force India driver now to score points for VJ, the eccentric owner of the team. Oh, never mind. Ricciardo pitted from the lead and returned to the track with fresh rubber in P6. Hamilton, Vettel, Rosberg, Vergne and Alonso were all ahead of him behind the safety car. Then it was time for Sebastian Vettel to take a spin. Something he would do more often in the redder Ferrari years later. In any case, he ruined his tires. Hamilton overtook Vergne for a second while being chased by the Honey Badger. Meanwhile, Nico Rosberg, who had pitted earlier, was on a different strategy and was closing in on Hamilton. The Englishman was told not to hold the German up and let him through. Hamilton answered bullish that he wasn't going to slow down and made it hard for the strategy team. The early signs of the Silver War were already there. Ricciardo made a third stop from the lead and regained the pack in third. Alonso was chased by Hamilton and made a mistake that saw him leave the track briefly. This was obviously noted by Hamilton, who snitched immediately. Ricciardo and Hamilton fought out a nice little scrap for second place, almost touching while locking up, but the Australian had to wait a little longer to get it done. Hamilton knew he couldn't keep Danny Ric behind and let the world know with the radio message he's famous for.
My tires are dead, guys.
I have to say, it's the opposite nowadays. He keeps telling Bono his tires are still good. See, some things do change. Ricciardo got the move done and still needed to pass Alonso for the win. At the end of the straight, he showed his signature move. The move that made him famous. The move that gave him the nickname, the latest of the late breakers. At full speed, he made a dive on the inside, braking later than his opponent, and made the move stick for the lead. That prompted him to say this.
That's how it's done, ladies.
He was waving and celebrating before he even finished. I miss this Daniel Ricciardo. Will we ever see that version of DR again? The podium positions were for Fernando Alonso and Lewis Hamilton. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was the 2014 Hungarian Grand Prix. Did I miss anything? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoy these funny race reviews, do me a favor and subscribe. You'll get the next one on your homepage and it helps me too. Take care now. Doei doei.